It's a quiet evening in suburban America. People file into a town hall meeting room, one by one, clutching papers in their hands. One person holds an electricity bill. Another holds a map of the neighborhood. They're not here to fight a landfill or a prison. What they're trying to stop is a data center. You know, the buildings people love to call the beating heart of AI. Isn't that strange? Not long ago, when high-tech industry came to town, the whole place buzzed. New factory, new jobs, new money. But today, across America, people show up to block the very infrastructure that powers the AI age. So what on earth changed? Here's a number that stopped me cold. In just the first quarter of 2026, about 75 data center projects were blocked or delayed. Their combined value? Roughly $130 billion, about the same as all of 2025, packed into 3 months. This isn't a few cranky neighbors. Let's rewind for a second. For decades, the formula for local prosperity was simple. A big company builds a plant, and the town wakes up. Construction jobs first, then steady production work. Then suppliers move in. Restaurants, housing, schools, whole main streets. They all light up. Picture TSMC's giant chip project in Arizona. The company promised 40,000 construction jobs and tens of thousands of high-tech roles. Or Hyundai's Meta plant in Georgia. A $759 billion bet creating at least 8,500 on-site jobs, plus thousands more at nearby suppliers. See the pattern? Those factories didn't just bring buildings, they brought people. Paychecks. The hope your kid might work there one day. That's what a town pictured when it heard advanced industry is coming. Not just a structure, a future with neighbors standing inside it. So here comes a data center. On paper, it's the same deal. Billions of dollars, cutting-edge tech. The future itself, right? But walk up to a finished one and the picture changes. It's not a factory floor humming with thousands of workers. It's a vast building lined with server racks, cooling fans, blinking lights, and once it's running, it needs shockingly few people. How few? Reviews of large data centers found many employ fewer than 150 permanent staff. Some run with just 25. Compare that to a car plant with thousands of shift workers, and you start to see why residents do a double take. One resident put it perfectly. They said Silicon Valley was coming. What actually arrived was a power-hungry warehouse full of servers. If you were at that meeting hearing 25 jobs instead of thousands, how would you feel? Honestly, would you cheer? And that's when the conversation shifts to your electricity bill. Because an AI data center never sleeps. It pulls power around the clock. Here's the strange thing about AI. It feels free, doesn't it? Typing a question into a chatbot feels weightless, almost like magic. But behind that question is a server. Behind the server is electricity. And behind that electricity is somebody's local power grid. How much power? The IEA says one typical AI data center can use as much electricity as 100,000 homes. And the biggest ones under construction today? Up to 20 times that much. Just let that number sit with you for a moment. Globally, data centers used about 1.5% of the world's electricity in 2024. By 2030, that's projected to more than double. In the US, the Energy Department estimates data centers could consume up to 9% of the nation's electricity by 2030. To feed that hunger, grids expand, new substations, new transmission lines, and that raises the question everyone at the meeting is asking: who pays for it? People wonder, why does big tech bank the profit while the grid upgrade quietly lands on my monthly bill? It's a fair question. In one grid region serving 65 million people, power costs jumped from $2.2 billion to nearly $15 billion in a year. Data centers drove nearly two-thirds of that jump, and nationwide home electricity rates climbed about 32% in just 5 years. So, when a retiree in Indiana says, "My electric bills are high as it is," that's not a talking point. That's his kitchen table. But electricity is only half the story. Remember how a data center feels invisible, like it lives up in the cloud? It doesn't. It's an intensely physical thing. Servers generate heat, a tremendous amount of it. And all that heat has to go somewhere. To cool them, many facilities use water. A mid-sized one can drink up to 300,000 gallons a day. A large one? Up to 5 million gallons a day, like roughly what a small town uses. Every single day of the year. And here's the twist researchers keep flagging. It's not the yearly total that hurts. It's the peak demand on the very hottest days. On a scorching afternoon, one facility's water use can spike to many times its average. That's punishing for a small town's water system. In one Georgia county, a project requested 6 million gallons a day. The water authority's blunt reply? We just don't have the water. Then there's noise. Cooling systems and backup generators can hit 85 decibels. Bigger units approach 100, like a jackhammer next door. Residents in Virginia reported lost sleep, headaches, a worse quality of life, all from a building that was supposed to be silent, and land. In 2024, the average data center site covered about 224 acres. That's roughly 450 football fields. Often that's farmland. In Ohio, a plan to rezone 300 acres sparked such backlash, the landowners simply withdrew the proposal. So picture it through a neighbor's eyes. Cooling towers, transformers, power lines, generators. Not a quiet office, like a small industrial power complex. And here's what's wild, this worry isn't fringe. In a Reuters Ipsos poll, 64% of Americans opposed building data centers at this rapid pace. 57% said they'd oppose one in their own community. Only 14% were comfortable with one nearby. 14%? Gallup found it even starker. 71% oppose a data center in their area. That's more opposition than new nuclear power plants get. And get this, it crosses party lines. Republicans worry about tax breaks and grid strain. Democrats worry about the environment. Rare common ground. Pew adds nuance. People don't hate the whole idea. They see jobs and tax revenue as upsides, but bills, environment, and quality of life as downsides. So this isn't people rejecting technology. It's people doing the math on who pays the costs and who pockets the benefits. Now let's pump the brakes, because this is exactly where it'd be easy to spin into a simple anti-tech rant. And that would be wrong. Data centers are genuinely necessary. The cloud, search, maps, translation, AI chatbots, hospital records, banking, all of it runs on them, including the very tools you and I use every single day. Nobody's handing those back. So this was never about hating technology, and they aren't economically worthless to a community either. They do bring something real, so let's look honestly at the numbers. A careful Brookings study found counties getting their first big data center saw private employment rise 4 to 5% over several years. Construction jobs jumped 11%. IT sector jobs grew 22%. Wages rose 3 to 4%, without spiking local home prices. So the honest answer isn't data centers create no jobs. They do. But, and this is the catch, the effect is often smaller than promised. That same study found naive estimates overstate the job impact threefold, because these counties were already growing faster than average. And not every data center is equal. The big job gains come mostly from hyperscale campuses, not from leased colocation sites. Even then, it takes scale. A single facility brings modest gains. You need 4 or more clustered together to really move IT employment. So here's the real gap. A town imagined a manufacturing plant. Thousands of workers, a supplier web. What landed was server infrastructure. That doesn't make a data center evil. It makes it different. And pretending it's the same old factory deal is exactly what breeds distrust. So the question stops being good or bad and becomes something harder. If we need these things, where and how do we build them fairly? And communities have started answering with their votes and their laws. This is no longer just shouting at a town hall meeting. By mid-2026, lawmakers in 14 states were weighing moratoriums on new data centers. Maine came within a single House vote of a statewide ban. More than 300 state data center bills were filed in just the first 6 weeks of the year. Let that sink in. Then look at Seattle. In June 2026, the City Council voted unanimously to pass an emergency moratorium on large data centers. The trigger? 4 companies wanted to build 5 facilities, a combined 369 megawatts, enough to power about 300,000 homes. Think about that for a second. Even Seattle, like Amazon's and Microsoft's own backyard, hit pause on the very infrastructure those companies depend on. But here's where it gets interesting. The smartest voices aren't saying ban everything. They're asking a sharper question. What's a fair deal? Because new industries have always demanded new space. Railroads needed track. Cars needed roads and parking. Oil needed refineries and ports. AI needs data centers. But the data center is a strange beast, a future industry that runs on the oldest resources. Power, water, land. It moves a virtual world, yet it leaves very real weight on a physical town. Next to a grid, a river, somebody's home, and some places are negotiating better deals. Trading land and permits for things like university research partnerships, workforce training, or capped water and power use. Others are demanding transparency. No more secret contracts, no more surprise costs landing on residents who never signed up for them. Because the deeper truth is this: whether a data center helps or hurts a town isn't fate. It's the result of the deal that gets struck. So if a data center were proposed in your town tomorrow, what would you ask for first? Lower bills? Jobs? A say in the contract? Let's bring it home. AI isn't some technology floating in the sky. It stands on very real ground. Beside grids, rivers, and neighborhoods, the old industries brought people into a town. Today's AI industry more often brings the demand for the town's electricity and water. So how do we live alongside this new kind of industry? Do we block it on reflex? Or accept it blindly in the name of the future? The heart of AI has to beat. Nobody's really disputing that anymore. The real question is, who has to live with the sound of it? Because if that heartbeat can only run by quietly draining one neighborhood's grid and water, can we honestly call that a future worth building? Maybe the real future isn't about stopping AI or surrendering to it. It's about deciding together where its heart can beat without breaking a community. So next time you type an effortless question into a chatbot, picture it. The server, the grid, the town carrying that weight for you. What do you think? Is your town ready to host AI's heartbeat, and on whose terms? Sit with that one for a while. That's a wrap for today. Thanks for thinking it through with me, and I'll catch you in the very next story.